I got to do a quick update. I'm telling you, I love this little motorcycle. Never have been a motorcycle person at all. And this thing has been so much fun. Part of it's working on it. You know, I enjoy working on stuff. But one of the things, well, I'll just go over everything I've done on it. New Nibby 30 millimeter carburetor with an air cleaner there. In here, under here is the air box. I took the top off and all of my tools are in the air box in there. The seat's kind of a pain to pull off, or I'd show you. And then I also trimmed that hump off of this seat, and I am telling you, made an absolute world of difference in this thing. Just taking that hump off, it's like you'd sit here and it was shoving you into this, and it was just really uncomfortable, where now I can sit just a little bit further back and it's just 1,000 times more comfortable. The next thing I'm going to buy is one of those tail bags that go here and expands out, so if you go get something, you can stick it in there. So I've done that. I've got the little phone mount from Amazon, and what I just got in today is a little tire pressure thing. So this gives me my tire pressure. It's a little low. I actually checked my tire pressure before I put this in, and it's actually about 10 psi more than that on both sides. So I tend to run my tire pressure on the higher end on everything. Maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but I've been told multiple times by multiple people that worked at tire shops to run on the high end of your tire pressure, and they last longer. You've got less chance of a blowout, all that kind of stuff. So, but what I do like, even if it's a little bit off, it's telling me if I've got air pressure. It is at least registering it, and what it'll do is if it's low, it'll start flashing red. So I like that. I changed this, and I've got the digital display thing and all the gears. It tells you all that. So that's what I've got up here, and I'm thinking about adding a little switch somewhere in here. 2 switches, one switch that will control some extra lights. And if you look, those are LED lights that I put in there. It's a 9003 or 9004. I can't remember which, but I put an LED light in it. Made a huge difference. I also have my oil cooler here. So this one came, and you can see this is beat up a little bit. I originally had it mounted right here, right in this area across this way. Didn't work out too good. The tire would actually hit it if you hit a bump, and so that's why it kind of beat this thing up. So what I ended up doing, and I don't know if you can see it, but this bracket right here, I just plasma cut that bracket out, and it uses the bolts that go through this to hold it together, and it actually holds the thing right here. It is completely out of the way. This keeps rocks and stuff from flying into it. It puts it in a place that really it's not in the way of anything. So to me, it's fantastic. So that helps with my temperature. And what I thought about doing is right here, get about a 7-inch fan and mount using these 2 holes. And there's a bolt back here that I can use, and basically make myself a mount with a 7-inch fan that's right here. This is where it gets the hottest. What that would allow me to do is when you're at a stoplight or something, you could flip a switch and it's rolling air over this head, so it would keep it even cooler. My understanding is the air-cooled engines, that's really what kills them, is heat. So if you can keep it cool, and if I can do that oil cooler in conjunction with a fan that's blowing across it, I think that'll make a big difference. The oil cooler also gives it more oil capacity. So I did overfill the oil slightly here, And then that oil cooler gives you a little bit more capacity. So, you know, the more oil capacity you have, the cooler it's going to stay as well. So as that's rotating through the engine, and the way this one works is you've got a, let's see, you can see the lines right there. They come out, and this replaces what it taps into. It's like the oil filter assembly. I've also got this so I can keep the battery topped off if I'm not using it for a while. Let's see, what else have I done? I did take let me sit down right here. This heat shield off. I cut a square here, and then I pulled the catalytic converter material out of this. So this is the stock exhaust. One thing I am trying to do is keep it quiet as much as I can. All of the aftermarket stuff that I've found, pretty much every bit of it is louder. Everybody says that it's quite a bit louder. I did also put an NGK spark plug there. And I've also found that if I run the non-ethanol, there's a gas station here that I get the like mid-grade gas that has no ethanol, and my dad actually told me to try that. He said go get some higher test gas and see how that works, and it actually makes a pretty big difference with this bike. So I've started running that in it. I mean, the thing gets like 50 or 60 miles to the gallon, so if it's $1 or $2 more, it's worth it for the power that it gives you. I've also upgraded to a 45 tooth here and a 17 tooth here, which gives me a top speed of around 70 miles an hour. Now, that's with the wind at your back. So, but I will say this, I think it at least, now if you're running this in the woods, stay with the original gearing. If you're just going to use this for a woods bike, but if you want to go on the road at all, with that gearing and the changes that I've made, I can comfortably cruise at about 60. At 60 miles an hour, I'm not over revving the engine. It don't feel like I'm just spinning its guts out. It does a good job, and it don't feel like it's really struggling. So for what it is, I'm telling you, I love this thing. If you've never gotten on a motorcycle, the only challenge is the seat height. I would say with this one, I'm 5'8", and I cannot flat foot this bike, but it's not that bad. Once you get used to it, it's really not that bad. The one thing that happened yesterday is right here. You can see this is not the original thing. I was riding down the road, and the bolt came out of this, and all of a sudden I had no clutch. So I had stopped in some traffic and just about ran into the back of somebody's car because the clutch wasn't there, and I didn't realize it. So I had to drag it to the side of the road because I couldn't use the clutch to get it into neutral. So I drug it off to the shoulder, and I sat there for a good several hours. Well, no, it wasn't several. It was maybe an hour. I looked around. Actually, I've got to put it back on, but I do have a 1/4 inch socket set in here. And so I took these bolts off, and then I stuck this in my backpack from the other side. I hadn't put it back on yet. And honestly, I'm thinking about taking this one off too, because, you know, every pound you can shed, and between the two of these, it's like 4 pounds of weight. So I thought about just taking this one off because I never intend to put a passenger on this thing anyway. So I'm probably going to take this off. But I took those bolts out. I looked around trying to find a bolt that would go back in it, and could not find anything. So what I ended up doing is I found a stick, took my pocket knife and whittled something down to where I could jam it in there, and it gave me a way to do that. And then I found a hairnet. This somebody's kind of nasty, but there was a hairnet on the side of the road, and I took it and I used it to sort of wrap around the stick and hold the stick in, and that got me to a gas station to fill it up, and then got me home. And once I got home, I measured the inner diameter of the shaft and found a bolt that works. And what I took a piece of metal on my lathe and turned down. It's 10 millimeters external, and I think a 6 millimeter internal hole, and a 5 millimeter bolt that goes down in it. And then what I did is I screwed it in, and this part's threaded. I screwed it in there, and then I used a lock nut as a jam nut to make sure it stays in place. So looks kind of goofy, but probably better than the original thing. So I also took a couple of these bolts and shoved them in, and I didn't even know this thing had this until like 3 days ago. It's got a little storage compartment back here, which is pretty cool. So I put some of those in there. I've actually got the guts that came out of where the oil cooler goes, so if I ever sprung a leak or something, I've got the spring and all the pieces that go into that here, so that we can go back in the place of the oil cooler. But that got that back up and running. And whoever had it when I had it has already replaced this one, and it's got a lock nut, or before I had it, so that's already replaced as well. So yeah, that's what I've done with it, and like I said, for what it is fantastic. Now my next thing, I'm actually looking at another motorcycle that my dad has that he said he'll let me have. It's a 1000cc African Twin that he's going to give me a heck of a deal on. So I will probably buy that. And when I do, I am not going to get rid of this motorcycle. Everybody says, man, as soon as you get on it, you're going to not do that. You'll never ride this one again. But man, for the lightweight, it cost me $30 a year in insurance to have this thing. If I keep it for my kids to ride, it's worth keeping it around for what I've got in it. And they make, so to me with this motorcycle, it is just almost everything I want it to do. I don't really care about going 150 miles an hour. I'd like to be able to keep up with traffic. And right now I can cruise at about 60. If I hit a really steep hill, it drops me down, you know, I might have to drop into fourth. So it's just almost right there. It almost has enough power. And I was actually looking at a Honda CRF 300L Rally and a NX 500 motorcycle. Those were the two that I was thinking about getting. I want something that I can ride, you know, 4 hours to the mountains to see my dad if I want to. Now this is still not going to be that bike, even if you upgraded it. But like the NX 500, I think I could have taken that on a longer trip and kept up with traffic and stuff like that. But for a local street dirt bike, to me, something that if I want to ride it into the woods, I'm not worried about it. If I break it, it's not going to kill me. Most of the parts on this thing are pretty simple, pretty easy to fix, pretty easy to get to. You can buy a top end for this motor. So this is a CG 250, and it's actually a 229cc motor. If you made this a 250cc motor with a little bit more compression, I think it would absolutely do everything you want it to do. For local, you know, that's going 70, 60, 70 miles an hour locally and then playing around in the woods. So here's what I'm thinking. On Amazon for CG 250 motors, you can get all the way from a 250cc to a 300cc all the way up to a 350cc bore kit, and they're about $70. When I get my other motorcycle, I'm thinking about getting the 300cc and swapping out the jug and the piston on this thing. It's worth $70. If I throw $70 in the garbage, oh well. I mean, it would be worth trying. There's also a Motocult website, and they sell a 250cc kit for it as well. Not sure if I want to do that. That's $250 on sale, and that's a pretty big chunk of change for this motorcycle to me. It would probably be worth it. But I'm going to try the $70 kit first, and if it don't work, then I'll get that one and put it on there, because I know for a fact that one works. But man, I'm telling you, I love this little motorcycle. This is my first motorcycle I've ever got, and I'm absolutely tickled to death with it. One thing that I think, we're still kind of in the middle of winter now, and I've slowly gotten more and more gear. So I am wearing these pants that I got off of Amazon. They zip down the side here, and then I'm wearing this jacket. Now this thing looks like, I brought it out of a sex dungeon or something like that. It's got zippers everywhere, but it's warm. So I can put this jacket on and these pants, and I bought a little neck thing and my motorcycle helmet, and the other day I rode to work. I just got the neck thing in, but the only thing I was really cold with the other day was my neck. And so I just got a fleece neck thing that goes on, and ordered 2 more other ones. But really, it was 29 degrees the other morning, and I rode to work, and I was fine. I don't think I'd want to do a 4-hour trip like that, but 10-minute ride to work, perfectly okay. These are also waterproof, and I'm going to get a different jacket that's like these that is also waterproof. And then I'm also going to get a summer version of both of those. So, these have all the knee stuff built into it and all the crash stuff built in. And I wear work boots anyway. Maybe that's not the right thing to wear, but that's what I've been wearing, and they keep my feet warm. So, but man, for what it is, like I said, I had a situation a while back where my truck and my car broke down at the same time. For $30 a year to insure it and 60 miles to the gallon, I could have hopped on this thing. I didn't have it at the time, but I could have hopped on it, rode to AutoZone, got my parts, got both of my vehicles fixed that day. But I ended up staying at home all day long and ended up calling a neighbor of mine that I didn't even think to call. He lives right next door to me, and he rode me down to the store and got my parts. But I tend to be more self-sufficient. I like to do stuff myself. I do have another chain that I'm going to eventually replace this one with. And there's a guy on YouTube, I think his name is Bodie, or there's Bodie and Moto Cheese that I've watched a lot of. And one of them has a little oiler. You put like chainsaw chain oil in it, bar and chain oil, and you can mount it wherever, and it will basically just keep a steady drip of oil onto your chain as you're driving. So it's like a perpetual oiler thing that you just fill up occasionally. So I'm thinking about getting one of those for it. And other than that, and maybe doing that top end, and maybe putting a bigger fan right here so if I'm sitting in traffic, I can get some of the heat off the motor. This thing has been fantastic. So I traded a van for this that I had traded somebody out of that I really didn't like and didn't want anyway. And I got this. I would say I've got $500 in it in trade. And then that was $100. The sprocket was, I think, $20 a piece. I'm still running the original chain that was on it. I put a $20 heavy-duty tube in the rear tire. I have $70 in the carburetor, and I think that was like $15 or something for the air cleaner there. Spark plug was like $12. This was $30. I don't remember how much that was. That was $66. The headlights came off of Amazon. The bulb was not that much. So, add all that up. I would say less than $1,000 I've got in it, and I've got something I can ride back and forth to work if I want to. Now, add to that a $70 jacket, $100 and something pair of pant things, $179 motorcycle helmet, $30 gloves, $10 neck thingy. So, just creature comforts to ride in, add a little bit to that. And then I've got tools that I've stashed in here. I've got a little 1/4-inch socket set, a couple of adjustable wrenches, some screwdrivers, some hot hands. So like if I do get cold, I've got some of those hand warmer things in there. And then up here, it's got a little compartment that's here, and I've got a little, it's one of those Icon 1/4-inch bit driver ratchet sets that is absolutely awesome. Between that, the 1/4-inch ratchet that I have in there, the ratchet set, all the other tools, I can pretty much do everything on this thing that you need to do. And matter of fact, that got me off the side of the road. So again, the next thing I'm going to do is spend probably 40 or 50 bucks for a little tail bag to go here. I've been using bungees to try and hold stuff, but they kind of suck. So I'm going to do something different there. I would like to be able to ride out to the store and get some little, odds and end groceries, things like that. And so I'm going to do that. I also thought about making off of this, welding on a little socket on each side, like a 1-inch tube, where if I did want to carry something bigger, I could slide in a box that I could make out of, say, aluminum that would come back maybe this far and all the way to here and give me like a nice little box there. Just for the occasional time I might want to ride to the store and get a little bit more stuff. But as far as, man, I absolutely love this thing. I'm a workaholic, and every opportunity I've got when I get home from work, even if it's dark, I'm getting on this thing and riding it down the road. I just enjoy it. So anyway, that's my little quick tour of everything that I've done and what I'm planning on doing. And if you're on the fence, if you're looking for something to go 150 miles an hour, do not buy this thing. If you want a dirt bike, it's worth every dime. If you want a street trail bike, which is what I'm using it for, that will get you back and forth but ain't going to get you on the highway probably, it's a great bike. If this is your first motorcycle, buy it. It is well worth the money. I would say it's a good beginner motorcycle for anybody that's never ridden. The only exception being the seat height. It's like 36 inches, and it's just a little bit tall. When you sit down on it, you do kind of push down on your suspension a little bit, makes it a little bit easier, but I have to sort of tippy-toe when I stop like that. And the guy that got it before me actually extended the kickstand thing. Don't hurt it at all. It just sort of sticks out a little bit like that, but made a pretty big difference in how easy it is to do that with. So I do think I am going to take that off. I don't really need it. That'll drop some of the weight, but and I do think the aftermarket exhaust is supposedly a lot lighter. And I know with these, your weight to power ratio makes a big difference. So the more weight you can shed, the faster it'll go. Because I'm like 200 pounds, and I don't know that these are really made for a 200-pound guy. So I'm not fat, but I'm a little bit chunkier than most of your Asians, I'd imagine, that this was maybe marketed towards. But, if that's the case, that's a 36-inch seat height. I didn't know they were that tall. But anyway, great little motorcycle. If you are in doubt and you want to get something, I really don't see how you can go wrong with it. You are going to tinker with it more. And one of the things I did is adjust the valves. That's one of the first things that you should do with this thing. When I did that, if you were before, it struggled to start. Now, it's that easy. It fires right up, idles like a dream. Just a great little, works good. So I don't know why adjusting the valves makes a difference, but I did, I think 2.5 thou filler gauge is what I used to do that with. And it's pretty easy. You just pop off some bolts, get it to top dead center, pop the spark plug out, stick your thumb in the hole and roll it around until you feel compression. And then you, on this end, you take this out, and you can see down in it with this, and you can turn it with this with I think it's a 16 millimeter or 17 or something, but you can turn it, and I think you turn it clockwise, or maybe you turn it counterclockwise. I don't remember, but you can tell which way you want it wants to turn. But basically, you roll it until you feel compression on the other side on the spark plug hole. And then once you feel it compression, that's your compression stroke, you come to a T here, and you get the T centered up in the hole. And you just take, there's 3 bolts that come off the valve cover. You take those 3 bolts off. You can do it without taking this off if you really want to. And basically you just loosen the nuts, roll in your filler gauge, and tighten it until you can kind of feel drag. And then you cinch both of those down. And man, I'm telling you, it made a huge difference on the way this thing ran. Everything I've read is these things come super tight, and there was 0 clearance when I got it. And I had ridden it for a good while like that, so I don't think it's good on them to do that. But I've been real happy with this thing. I do think I've actually gotten the motor pretty toasty last summer. It was pretty hot and got real toasty. Now, I've ridden it more this year than I have last year. I got it at the very tail end of summer. And it's just starting to come into spring here, and so I am riding the living daylights out of this thing. I do have an MSF course scheduled. I'm going to try to do that so I can get my motorcycle endorsement. Not the permit, the endorsement, the permanent one, or whatever you call it. So I'm going to do that, but man, I'm telling you, I've enjoyed that thing. So yeah, there you go. Have a great day. Bye.